What are your worst college roommate horror stories? Story 1. My roommate was a born-again Christian who did not allow alcohol or women in the room. If he saw alcohol, he would go to the floor manager and demand a room check since we were not allowed on campus. The floor manager would come in and ask, "Do you have alcohol?" And I would reply, "No." The floor manager would try to leave, and then the roommate would burst in from the hallway and say, "Yes, he does," but could not find it. I hid it in his closet every time. He never figured out that part. Literally, the same process would happen with women in the dorm after 11 p.m. Same two-act play, same hiding place. He would always scream about the women when they came in. "My mama didn't raise me to shack up with no woman," was his favorite phrase, and I asked more and more women to come in and stay until exactly 10:59 p.m. and 59 seconds every night. Eventually, he dropped out of college from the stress. I guess I am the monster. Story 2. I had a university flatmate who was a bit crazy. It started out with her just stealing my food. I couldn't leave it anywhere in the kitchen for more than 12 hours or she'd have it, and putting passive-aggressive notes up in our kitchen calling me a liar. I have food allergies, but apparently I was making them up. She was nasty to anyone I had over. She took all my crockery and put it on top of the cupboard so I couldn't reach it, and I had to climb up and get it all down. She then convinced all the guys in my flat to take the kitchen furniture and pile it outside my door so I couldn't get out of my room. I got the flu, and she spent a day screaming at me through the walls whilst I alternately cried and slept until my parents came and drove me home. It got to the point where I was considering dropping out of the university, but I asked to be put into another flat as a last resort. I got moved into a flat with 5 guys, and it was so much messier, but so much nicer. It sounds like your former flatmate was like a real-life version of the Grinch, stealing food, hiding crockery, even barricading you in your own room. It's a good thing that you didn't let her steal your sanity as well. Moving in with 5 guys might sound like the beginning of a bad joke, but it seems like it turned out to be the punchline to your flatmate's reign of terror. Story 3. My first roommate, the memories. Very heavy, very socially awkward, and definitely psychotic. Often mumbled to himself with shifty eyes, ate my food, and was either railing against the evils of religion, out trying to get me to join the army of the Virgin, or some other Catholic sect. He often lounged around in his tidy whities and refused to clothe himself if I had guests or girls over. He would just sit down and put a blanket over his lap. I walked in on him jacking it or to blaring adult films numbers of times, of which he used my tissues. He would also have long phone arguments with his girlfriend, who, according to the wallet photo he had of her, was Greedly from Captain Planet. The kicker for me was that when he had a breakdown and called the RA and a counselor in to talk with him while I was writing a paper, he was highly agitated and at one point said I just looked over at my roommate while he was asleep and thought to myself, I would just take out my knife and kill him and then myself. No offense to him. I was in the zone with my paper, so I automatically replied, "None taken." Then I did a double take as the horror dawned on me. Nonplussed eye contact with my RA and noped the heck out and moved to a different floor. Story 4. Not my story, but a friend's. My friend had a foreign roommate her freshman year who appeared to be the best roommate one could ask for. She was quiet, clean, and rarely there. She also baked on occasion. First semester went by pretty smoothly. My friend is loving life, college rocks. And midway through her spring semester, my friend starts noticing that sometimes, when she goes to take her birth control each day, it's not always there. She chalks it up to absent-mindedness the first few times, and then she starts paying closer attention because she's not just that forgetful. The immediate suspicion falls to her roommate, of course, being that she's the only other person with daily access to the room. My friend has a casual talk with her, and her roommate seems confused and slightly offended that she would even ask if she could be responsible. My friend believes the best in people and tries to shake it off. Now, weeks go by without incident, until one day my friend returns from a class that got canceled early. She walks into her room to literally catch her roommate red-handed. There she is, on my friend's side of the room, with the little package in her hand. My friend doesn't have much of a temper, but obviously has no choice but to confront her then and there. Her roommate breaks down in tears and tells her that she got pregnant over spring break and she's trying to get rid of the baby by taking birth control after the fact. My roommate is stunned and horrified. She ends up contacting the RA, who contacts the roommate's parents, who pull her out of school. No idea what happened to her after that. People are crazy. Story 5. My girlfriend lived in a 2-bedroom apartment with her friend. Both my roommate's boyfriends lived there. Now, the girls were getting upset at each other and things had been going south. Then one day, near the end of a Walking Dead episode, we started talking about problems, and talking turned to fighting. Things were said, and he pulled a gun on me. I asked why he would do that, and if I had been threatening him by yelling while sitting on the couch. He never pointed at me, but he did cock it. My girlfriend pulled me into her bedroom, where then I called police. When they got there, we had already gone outside with him alone in the other bedroom. When the police entered, there was a single gunshot, and he ended his life. We left that apartment and never went back except to move out. And this is the reason why I don't watch The Walking Dead anymore. So this is a pretty heavy and intense story. It just goes to show how quickly things can escalate and how important it is to be aware of the people that you surround yourself with. It's good that you were able to get out of that situation and move on. And as for The Walking Dead, it's probably best to just find a new show to binge watch. Story 6. I had a housemate in a 4-person house who I asked to take care of my dog over one weekend. I never left any of the responsibilities associated with my dog up to anyone because the rest of the guys were doing me a favor by letting me have him there anyways. This one housemate wasn't a huge fan of the dog, and when I came home after the weekend, there was a crap and a piss in my room where presumably my dog was kept most of the weekend. His water and food were in there too, so I guess at least that's something. He was really skittish when I said hi to him, so I think my housemate hit or kicked him while I was gone too. Story 7. I had a roommate that jacked off constantly. I would unlock the door, which was an old school push combination lock, so it took a few seconds, thank God, and enter. And he'd be shutting his monitor off with his hand over his pants. Now, this seriously happened so much that I actually had to have a talk with him about it after bringing girls over once in a while who would catch him in the act with me and suddenly no longer be in the mood. Story 8. This happened to my cousin. I was there to witness the aftermath. My cousin is an international college student who had just moved here and barely spoke any English. He moved in with another roommate to offset the ridiculous cost of a New York apartment. His roommate met a pretty cute girl. However, he discussed it with my cousin and agreed that there was something odd about the girl. He didn't want to fully commit to a relationship just yet, but they still hooked up. My cousin also said that his roommate still talked to other girls, but didn't move any further than that. So one day, my cousin and his roommate were having breakfast in the kitchen. The girl had slept over the night before. The girl wakes up and goes into the kitchen, picks up a knife, and stabs his roommate in the neck 3 times. My cousin freezes in shock, but then picks up his chair and then tried to fend her away. She then takes the knife and stabs herself in the chest. Somehow, everybody survives. My cousin cried and called my dad, telling him that he hates America and he wants to go back to China. Story 9. Sharon used to eat in her room and then slide the plate under her bed. She'd do this every day until my other roommate and I couldn't bear the stink anymore, and also needed plates for our own dinner. She also regularly invited her drug dealer boyfriend over to hang out in our apartment during the day. Several times I came home to find deals taking place in our living room. Eventually, the cops were called by one of our neighbors, and we, not him, were interrogated and searched. Oh, and there's the time that she also left a sanitary towel sunny side up on the toilet seat in our shared bathroom. I could go on. It sounds like Sharon was quite the roommate. It's a good thing that she didn't make her collection of her food plates under the bed any bigger, or she would have given the rats in New York City a run for their money. And as for her drug dealer boyfriend, I guess he just couldn't resist the allure of a cozy living room with a lovely view of handcuffs and a ride in the back of a squad car. And don't even get me started on the sanitary towel on the toilet seat. It's enough to make anyone want to bleach their eyes and move out immediately. Story 10. My freshman roommate was an okay guy, but we didn't really have a ton in common. I think the housing department matched us simply because we both liked the same things. The dude seemed rather asexual. He had friends but never had guests, and I couldn't tell if he liked guys or was straight or what. Keep in mind that in those days, even in the most enlightened circles, some people tried to stay in the closet. Now, one of the things I regret most about college was drinking to excess. And I'd get bloato, like I wouldn't remember anything from the night before. Now, one night I was way too hammered, don't even remember how I got back to my room. But I woke up around 4 a.m. to the oddest dream, which was that while I was passed out, my roommate came over to my bed, took off his pants, and climbed up on top of me. In the dream, I woke up while he was pulling down my pants, and I rolled over and with one solid push, shoved him across the room where he crashed into his bed in his tighty whities. I was a lot bigger and stronger than him and sent him flying. I can still see the image of him hitting his bed like it was yesterday. I went back to being passed out and later woke up remembering that weird dream. My roommate was gone, but later that day I saw him and he had a swollen lip. I like to give people the benefit of the doubt, so I'm not going to say for sure what happened, but a couple weeks later, one of the dudes next door asked me if I wanted to swap roommates and move into his room, and I said yes in a flash. Story 11. First off-campus college roommate, let's call her Carla, and she was really friendly to start with. We had a couple really good weeks together. Then our other roommate moved in. Apparently, they had been roommates the year previous together, and she got very jealous when I developed a relationship with our other roommate. Let's call her June. Fast forward to the winter. Carla hates my guts and barely talks to me and finds little things to freak out about. Yeah, it sucks. And I try to smooth things out by cleaning more and buying her PSLs every couple weeks because, white girls. Finally, one night we had a huge argument because she wants me to clean her dishes along with mine. Nah, man, do your own stuff, she's yelling at me, and I take a step out of the apartment. Now remember, it's winter and it's 11 p.m., and I don't have shoes. I'm just in my PJs. The girl locks me out. Finally, June hears me pounding on the door and lets me in, and I'm pissed. Carla is laughing. I don't say a word and get over it. My boyfriend comes over and cooks breakfast with me. We head out to get coffee and get back an hour later. We find all of our food that we left on the counter in a bag along with a bottle of uncapped vinegar. She spoiled about $25 worth of perfectly good food. My boyfriend asks her when she comes out of her room to not touch our things, and she throws a hissy fit. Radio silence resumes in the apartment. Finally, the last straw was that she decides to clean the bathroom that we share for the first time. Yay, good for Carla, finally an olive branch. I go to brush my teeth, and bubbles, weird bubbles and the unmistakable taste of bleach. She sprayed my toothbrush by accident. I decide it's an accident, I toss it out, not make a big deal of it, but then the next day I brush my teeth again. Same thing. So I go vent to June, and she tells me Carla had just gone and bragged to her about bleaching my toothbrush as some sort of weird revenge. So screw you, Carla. Story 12. Freshman year, I got bunked up with an extra roommate due to over-enrollment. A cramped dorm room with 3 guys in it. For a while, things were pretty fun, and we were all friends. But after 2 months, one roommate had a disgusting habit. First, he instead of walking literally across the hallway to the bathroom, he would just pee in empty or half-empty Gatorade bottles and just let them sit in the open. That's gross. But then he started crapping in takeout boxes and letting them sit all night or day until me and another roommate got back to yell at him. The third thing is that he had a shoebox collection of used rubbers he did it into. The smell was horrendous and awful. It took the RA and whoever else in charge of housing a month to finally relocate me and the other guy and eventually kick the gross guy out. So for nearly an entire semester at any time, you could walk into our room and see a crap in a container with leftovers still in it, a mosaic of different colored piss bottles, or a soggy shoebox on his desk filled with used rubbers. He never went to class and would just play video games on his computer until 5 a.m. every day. I still think back on it nearly 10 years ago and am blown away with how long it took for any administrative intervention to happen. So it sounds like that roommate was quite the catch. Well done. I mean, who doesn't love coming home to the sweet aroma of pee bottles and feces in takeout boxes? And the used condom shoebox collection? That's simply priceless. I guess some people just don't understand basic hygiene and common decency. Let's hope that guy found a more suitable living situation that happened to accommodate his unique lifestyle choices. Story 13. My favorite roommate story is from freshman year. My roommate came home drunk one night and wandered into the dorm basement. She was too drunk to find a bathroom, so she peed in the dryer. Not the washing machine, the dryer. I'm half horrified, half impressed, given the fact that it was a front loader. And in an extremely twist of fate, the next day she forgot her clothes in the washing machine. Some kind gentleman paid to put them in the dryer for her, and it just so happened that it was the one that she peed in the night before. Story 14. My senior year, I was roomed with 3 sophomore sorority girls. Now, all of my friends wanted single-bedroom apartments, and I'm broke city and couldn't afford to do the same. Basically, I'm nowhere close to having things in common with sorority girls. I'm very much an antisocial butterfly who would rather stay home and play video games, ignoring things completely. I don't like parties, never have, nor do I enjoy staying out late. However, these girls made it basically impossible to just ignore them. One thing to know before we get into details. All 3 of them were friends at the beginning of my senior year, and by the end, they all hated each other, and only one still lived with me. The first one we'll call Rochelle. Rochelle had very rude, very flirty boyfriend who spent nearly every day in our living room. This was easily sidestepped by just avoiding spending time in the common area, but soon the douchebag started eating my food. And not just eating some of it, like actually opening new packets of lunch meat, cheese, eating the last piece of things, etc. All without asking. So I ask Rochelle if she can talk to him about not eating my food since he didn't live there, and she agrees, but nothing happens. Turns out Rochelle and her boyfriend were in a very real emotionally abusive relationship, which, while I feel for her and would have been supportive, she was too much of a jerk most of the time to offer advice. He ends up cheating on her about a month into the semester for, I don't know, the 50th time, causing the other girls, let's call them Melissa and Bethany, to have an intervention of sorts. They talk to her about breaking up with her boyfriend, but then it turns into a spiral of problems, which starts with Rochelle being absolutely nutters about cleanliness. She makes a clean schedule, which involves vacuuming every day. I simply erased my name off the board where I was placed because I wash my own dishes as soon as I use them, and I never spent time in the common areas, so it was never my mess. She throws a tantrum at me, which I respond to by simply walking away, closing my door, and turning up music to drown out her screeching. The other girls really have no real option but to deal with it, since Rochelle is the BFFL. Apparently, I missed some drama that occurs between them over Facebook, but they essentially start passive-aggressively and loudly fighting. Rochelle starts having absurdly loud adult time with her boyfriend while the other two are home, and then Bethany starts blasting really terrible music while this is occurring to get them out of the mood. And then Melissa stops cleaning, which leads to a stalemate on dishes and fruit flies. One day I came home to all three of them crying and screaming in the living room. The next day, Rochelle moved out. Melissa tells me a whole bunch about how Rochelle is failing all of her classes. Now, I already knew this since I watched the front desk of the academic probation office as a campus job that year and had a very awkward check-in with her one day. This is the first time I realized that Melissa is a complete jerk and a half, though because she goes on a really long rant about not only Rochelle, but Bethany. Fast forward to around the end of the fall semester. Bethany starts having friends over at all hours doing weird stuff and being loud. Like some mornings she has Bible study in our living room, which for some reason requires them to play guitar to some verses. And then some nights she'll have some friends over being loud, drinking, and carrying on until like 4 a.m. when I have to work the next morning. I talk to her about it, trying to keep it quiet, especially on Thursday nights when I have to have the earliest shift. This goes nowhere. I realize a little bit before Thanksgiving that this one girl is basically living in our living room. She's Bethany's friend, who I find out from loudmouth Melissa lives at home with her parents and is really just using our living room and a blow-up mattress to have fun with her boyfriend, who also still lives at home. Fantastic. Whatever, no big deal, except Bethany leaves over Thanksgiving break, and those two are still in my living room. More drama occurs over break, as I find out later. Bethany allows her friends to have fun in Melissa's bed while she's away. When Melissa finds out, she blows the lid, leading to more passive-aggressive fighting between Melissa and Bethany, and less sleep for me. Wow, that was an exhausting story. It sounds like you lived a real-life version of a bad sitcom. From the flirty boyfriend who ate all your food to the girl who had Bible study jam sessions in your living room, it seems like you had a cast of characters straight out of Central Casting. And let's not forget about Rochelle, the cleanliness-obsessed drama queen who vacuumed every day like it's an Olympic sport, but at least she moved out, right?